As we head into the end of the week, let's take a look at where things stand across the markets. Bitcoin put in an incredible move, first surging to $114,000, then retracing all of it back to $106,000 just as quickly. Meanwhile, gold saw one of the sharpest pullbacks in years, something we've only witnessed a handful of times in history, the amount that it pulled back by. And when it comes to altcoins, the picture remains pretty stagnant here. Momentum's cooled, and sentiment across the board is sitting still deep in extreme fear for the crypto market at least. Personally, I've been anticipating this type of range-bound environment, the type that keeps everyone guessing and arguing and second-guessing their outlooks. Bear market, bull market. But here's the question. Do you think that this range is just a pause before the next breakout or the calm before a much deeper correction? Let me know what you think down in the comments. Write the word calm or pause. I'll be breaking it all down today. Bitcoin's wild swing, the macro pressures, and what that could mean as we're heading into next week, essentially. So my name is Paul Sampson. Welcome back to DataDash. So as we head into the weekend, let's just look at what Bitcoin has done this week and look at the next key regions that we need to see flipped or if lost, where we could be heading. And realistically, I've only got two really major outlier areas here. One is up again back at 121,615, and one is down to 97,800. This is really the area that I imagine we kind of bounce around between for the next few potentially weeks. But until we break essentially the previous low now here at 103, 97 is not a huge worry. And until we get above 116, 121 is not a huge concern either. So we're literally just stuck in this smaller range right here, where this is something I look for each and every week. This was last week's range data. Okay, a lot of times we get back into the range, we look for the point of control, right, which is this big white line protruding from this volume cluster. So that becomes a weekly target for us. All right, and in this case, we basically pushed right up, tagged that level, and got a rejection off of our monthly open. So a key region for the month, we want to get above that, obviously, for any more continued upside as far as for the month of October. This is also our quarterly open as well, so a big region regardless for the remaining 2 months also to be aware of. So this 114 is a monster. We want to get above that area for any more continued upside. If we were to see us hold the range low right now, which we are pretty much doing, and get a full range rotation. This is the next thing we're pretty much looking for, as we kind of, again, this whole area here is very relevant for this week. So still being in here, rotating it to the upside since we have not done so yet, still on the cards. And then at that point, we'll be looking to hold 114. 114 is the key level in my opinion. Of course, it's 116 right after that, basically being the recent highs as far as any more confirmation. But if we were to push up from here, hold 114, I'd be looking for us to build up some momentum and get a push up towards that 120 region again. So again, this range here that I just pointed out is still really relevant for the remainder of this week. That could go into the weekend even, especially since we have not yet rotated it yet. In that case, I'm talking about from low side to high. So basically from where we are right now, about 108, 9,000 to 116, right? So that's the range at hand here. Breaking below 103, 97 becomes more on the table at that point. That's a key level that I do anticipate us coming down to in the foreseeable future here. Until then, I think we're going to have a lot of range activity where these shorter term moves, while they stress everybody out, they freak everybody out, there's a lot of opportunity there, right? So, I mean, we're talking about, we saw a $6,000 move, an $8,000 move on Bitcoin back to back in 2 days this week, which is incredible on its own because, folks, there was a time when Bitcoin was only $3,000 for several weeks or months, and we're swinging that now. I always think back to that. I always think that that's an incredible thing to see. Or when Bitcoin pulled back from even 126 to 102 just a couple weeks ago, that $20,000+ move. That was the entire bull run of 2017, right? Bitcoin got up to 20K. I just find that very fascinating. I know it's not what probably most are focusing on. Everybody wants the market to go up. Again, I think we're in a range-bound environment for the next foreseeable. We've just had pretty big impulsive moves. A lot of times we need time to unwind that. We've seen it pretty much the entirety of this move so far. And as long as we're holding above 97,000 in my eyes, I think that nothing's really broken here. So that's the key here. And then again, the shorter term I just kind of broke down for you as we go into the weekend. And then on Monday, we'll have a new outlook for a little bit more bigger picture stuff. Now, I did mention that we were in extreme fear, which I guess that was a misspeak there. We were in extreme fear up until this updated just 19 minutes ago. But both the stock market and the crypto market both in fear right now, right? So the sentiment is that everyone is scared. Everyone, again, when we are in these range bound environments, I mean, that's just the number one thing I feel, that everyone is concerned with what may come with every small drop and pop. I think that the news is very scary right now. And anytime that we're getting a tweet and all this, everybody's in big fear that something's going to just drop the market again. Well, I will say that at this point, it's very similar to when we were at those tariff war fears back in April, where again, the market had already been dropping, and every time it did, it was met with a tweet or a news catalyst around the tariffs, right? And then so on the last one that we got on basically at the low at 74,000, we still got another bad news, release at that point. But what were we in at that stage? We were in extreme fear. So everything was at extremes. The news was already beating us down, right? So that now looking back, people say it was just priced in. But I just want to point out that even while we're here and things seem like it's just, collapsing around us, we could easily get this move back up to 116, back to 120, before we still head down towards that 97, right? And that's on a technical base. I know that that's hard to understand sometimes, and people will look at it like, how could you even imagine us getting a push up to those levels, because everything is so bearish. But we've been here many times before, my friends, and so don't count that out 100%, and also just be mentally prepared to see that, because again, you don't want to be just chasing everything or scattering around when these moves occur, only to pretty much funnel back in at highs or just be unaware of what is at hand here. So the idea for me still is we go down to 97K, whether it's straight down from where we are now or a pop up first and then we go down. But that's the overall idea. Again, just looking for simple range rotations at this point, little pops for a lower high, maybe an ABC correction up into those areas. But either way, that's the thesis at the moment, is that we go up a little bit from here. But ultimately, we're going to 97,000, okay? Don't know what news catalyst is going to take us there. That's just the overall technical setup at hand right now. You've got Ethereum coiling up right here, right, in this little, almost like a perfect little triangle, right, a symmetrical triangle, which could technically break either way. And I guess more technical that you entered this from the high side, and more probable that it would actually break lower. Only thing about this is, again, this is a very basic setup, very classic, that most people will probably be looking for, all right? And even if you do get a little bit of a downfall here, you'd look for the sweep of the lows, basically, and then more so like a fake out, all right? Because to me, again, as long as we're holding this key level right here, our yearly open, at the time it was an untapped monthly pivot. I have a couple other reasons behind why I like this level specifically. As long as we're holding above this overall low that we put in back on October 10th, I still foresee a move for ETH to at least push back up to 4,500, and if not, make that next move up again, challenge into new highs, effectively meet this region right here, and then if not anymore. But we'll just take it step by step in that case. But yeah, very much interesting when I start to see these, because again, this is where a lot of people will start to look for, especially if we spend a little bit more time here, because it's the only thing that's very blatantly obvious. And in usual cases, it would be a little bit of a bearish setup. People will look for it to go down. So if you get a sweep of the lows, everybody will probably open up some shorts. The breakout traders that generally don't win in this case, they're going to, and again, it could happen, but I'm just pointing out the scenario of what is in my theory at the moment. Again, we head into the weekend, right? And maybe Bitcoin pushes up and ETH comes with it, or we head into next week with a setup where we end up coming and taking our lows, and then away we go, right? So that's the overall sentiment with me on ETH. Again, key level, as long as we're holding below this, holding above the year open down here at 3,300, I don't see a reason why we don't head higher again and challenge into new highs. So gold has seen a historic pullback, and I don't mean that in the sense of just percentage, which actually it might be if I look back, maybe in just the sense of how fast it was, but overall it was now that the amount that gold is worth, that this drop was a huge amount of market cap essentially, right? So very big drop to happen. A lot of people were speculating that there was a rotation going on between gold and Bitcoin, because at the same exact moment we had a very brief push out of Bitcoin, that $8,000 move I'd mentioned, up to the high that immediately got erased. I don't necessarily think that that's going to be how gold and Bitcoin react here, in the sense of where we have to get a pullback out of gold for Bitcoin to get the rotation. I don't necessarily know that that's going to be the case, but regardless, on the technical side of things here on gold, very natural to see this pullback. We've had nothing but all upside so far up until this region. All right. So no decent pullbacks along the way. So realistically, we'd want to see a nice healthy cool down to, even if it was 39.71, which I really like because it's just below $4,000. So it's right below that psychological barrier. And folks, the crazy thing here is that even after this extremely amazing move, and where we got down to when we were trading here at $4,000 just on the 10th on Friday, when the crypto market actually pooped the bed, the excitement is incredible here, right? And then we obviously get some more upside, and then you come back to where you were just a few weeks back, still up incredible 100% plus, since 2020 highs basically. And the fear is just through the roof, and it's the number one emotion in this game that I just find so incredible is that, I say it all the time, Bitcoin at $126,000, everybody's in fear if it pulls back $10,000, 10%, 20%. When Bitcoin was $3,000, we were in fear that it was going to fall back to $1,000, right? Because, and I get it, I get why. Like it pulls back the market. Everybody sees potential levels in their portfolio, and then it gets cut in half 2 days later. Or the altcoins, especially right now, have not been performing, and that's just not fun. But you really have to control those emotions and put them aside. And I know it's cliche, but take a little zoomed out approach here and just note where we are, right? I mean, even gold, if it came back to $3,600, like that's the crazy part to say out loud. Or Bitcoin, if Bitcoin crashes to $97,000, we used to joke about that years ago, that there would be a day when we would all fear the crash to 100K, right? But now that we're here, it truly is. And I said this the other day on X, is that Bitcoin could go to $1 million and everyone will fear the pullback to 900K, right? It's always going to be there. And the biggest unfortunate part is the people in fear are the ones that just got in late. They did not get an ideal entry. They chased a pump, right? Anybody that's worried about gold right now is because they just started buying it at $4,000 or $4,200, right? It's the same thing over and over. And that's why I always will preach to just always wait for a big red day. There's always going to be a red day to get your entry, and just never feel like you're in a rush, because these markets, they're going to be here. So anyways, we could pull back and see this point, and this 382 is just from this last impulse move. And again, I look for the 382 pullbacks a lot, because usually when we see a strong move to the upside, we don't get the deep retracement to the gold pocket that everybody wants. You tend to get it more shallow, and even at times you get a 236, which I don't even have pulled up here. But usually you get a shallow retracement to the 382. And while it's not shallow in percentage, because of course this is 30% of this whole move up, but this is probably like 10%, right? By the time we get down to it, if we did, it's like 9% move, almost 10%. So a scary drop when you're kind of watching it and not looking at a chart. I get that, you're just looking at your portfolio amount, but very natural move out of gold in my opinion. And what you want to get these pullbacks for is a lot, because now we're in price discovery, right? There's no way to know, aside from projecting off of previous moves here, what we can look to where we're going to probably hit our head at. So this has been my these two levels here at the time when we were pushing up, right? 3,600 was a big level for me, which is again all-time high. This is just price discovery. 4,400 all-time high. There's no previous price data there that gives me any reason aside from the fib extensions, right? But when you get this type of move, now we can actually project new moves from that, okay? Which you want to see. So essentially, assuming this is either our low or we come down a little bit more towards that 39.70, which again, just 4,000, little break of it probably gets everybody really worked up. But from there, I'd be looking for, honestly, the next jaunt up. I don't want to overlook 44 or 43. We have not tagged it yet, so we could very easily come up, take the highs type of thing, and just kind of coast here. Again, this is not unheard of to just see some ranging sideways activity, just like we saw right here. Very good example. Pretty much what I think we're going to get out of Bitcoin right here. But look at this huge move up, right? Huge move. And then we kind of coasted, we broke out, okay? Very possible we see something like that. If things just continue straight from here, though, we want to flip 44, 43, and then at that point, the road to 5K is on board, right? So I wouldn't overlook 46, but 5,000 would be our 1-to-1, and what a crazy time to be alive. And all I got to say to that is that Ethereum better not let gold beat it to 5,000. So we better see that Ethereum price get to 5K before gold does, or I'm going to be upset. And S&P 500, folks, I mean, I've had nothing but these two levels on the chart for a hot minute, okay? The 2024 high, and then all of the next target area for me, which is about 7,000. Really 7,000, I think, is a big region that I don't see why we wouldn't hit that relatively soon at this point. It's only a few percent away at that, right? So 4 or 5%, which is huge for the S&P. So I'm not saying that that's like an overnight ordeal, but ultimately I still foresee us heading up towards this region. Now, that doesn't mean we can't from here get a little bit of a cool down, range out for a bit, and then make that next move in a few weeks, or even push up to 7K, get a little cool down. Again, we're in a territory where it's not necessarily overly up only environment from here. And I just do want to point out that from the tariff April lows, we've already seen a 40% impulse move here. So again, it's about the zooming out part, right? If we get a 10% pullback tomorrow, and we're cooling off here, it's not something that's worth overly getting excited about too negative, because we just saw 40. You gotta look at where we've been and where we are, right? So we're up 40% without a substantial cool down. This is just very similar to gold at this point. So at any moment we could very well get a pull. Let's see what the 382 lines up with, basically at that 2024 high. Okay, so I only point that out because very, very common to see something along those lines. We hold that high side here. Now that's a pretty big, decent move out of the S&P from where we are now. Again, 10%, which would seem scary in the time of, but that's how I'd be viewing this. And when I look for new opportunities and fresh areas to deploy capital and new entries, just getting involved, right? If I wasn't already, this is how I view it. I don't look at where we are now and see that this is a great entry, because even if we do get this next move up, 10, 15%, that could take weeks, months, maybe even all of 2026. But at the same token, I'm noting that we have not yet pulled back, not cooled off at all. And it's super common to come back to that 382, which is the same exact pullback that we're maybe going to get to the upside. It's not a good risk to reward, in my opinion, from where we are right this second. So a lot of times when I'm talking on where things could be heading, if we're not at a key area for a fresh entry is what I usually say, it's usually speaking to the person that's already invested and being aware of, all right, so I'm already in here, in from lower, where could we be seeing this push up to next, and why? And that's that person that is probably interested in that, right? The longer term investor that's already been invested for several years, if not longer. And if somebody's brand new to the market right now and has to get into gold or Bitcoin or whatever, we got to wait for those big key levels, right? So that's how I approach everything in this market. I'm never chasing the pumps. And for the S&P right now, I think that we're just pretty much, we're at a high. We're trading in the middle. It looks like it wants to go for new all-time highs yet again. I target 7,000 and 7,700 ultimately, with potential here for a very common pullback, even if it's 10% down to 6,100. Okay. So as we wrap up the week here, the big question still remains, folks. Is this range on Bitcoin simply a pause before the next breakout, or is it the calm before something bigger? Again, write the word pause or calm down in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. I always enjoy hearing how you all are interpreting the current market structure. It helps me to gauge everybody in the audience, and it helps to get our algorithm pumping and pushes this out to more investors like us. Remember that volatility and uncertainty are part of every cycle, and the key is staying patient, disciplined, and informed. If you found today's breakdown helpful, please be sure to drop us a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so that you don't miss out on next week's updates. And if you would like full access to my trade setups, educational material, daily updates, as well as Nicholas Merton's monthly Dash report, you can join us over at DataDashPro.com. It's where we track all the moves in real time, each and every day, each and every month. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Paul Sampson. I'll see you all in the next video. And until then, everybody, cheers.